from myself. First of all, as Alice said, you can ask your questions. There is a Q&A panel for this. We'll collect the questions and ask them when time comes after the presentation. So it should be around 11:40 Brussels time. So a brief overview of iBRoad until now. Let me say that we have now entered the last 4 months of the iBRoad project. So most of the work that iBRoad has to show is more or less completed. If iBRoad was a startup, a business, we would say our pitch that what iBRoad provides is a concept for the building renovation passport. Why? Because renovating a building can be complex, especially if done in several steps, as we know that most house renovations are done in Europe. So to help homeowners, iBRoad has worked on the building renovation passport concept, specifically developing and testing an individual building renovation roadmap, which provides a customized long-term renovation plan. And this is further supported by a logbook, a repository of building information such as blueprints, works implemented, energy consumption, production, etc. However, in order for the building renovation passport to achieve its full potential impact in practice, surrounding policy instruments are essential, with economic, regulatory, and information instruments supporting a synergistic approach. So today we will be looking at these more in detail through our presenters. Building renovation can be complex, and knowing where to start and in which order to implement building renovation works is already something that is important for building owners. The iBRoad project has produced a logic, a concept behind this to support this, developing an individual building renovation roadmap specifically for single-family houses, but which can be adjusted potentially for other building typologies as well. The tool looks at the building as a whole and provides a customized renovation plan over a long-term horizon. The roadmap makes it possible to improve a building gradually rather than in one go, taking into account the occupant's needs and specific situation. For example, their age, their financial situation, their composition and expected evolution of the household, etc. So by planning ahead future technical requirements, the roadmap also helps to avoid lock-in. Lock-in is when our present choices limit the renovation potential in the future. Another thing that can help is to have a reference, some kind of repository for information related to the building. This is what we call the logbook, which supports the roadmap. This building logbook includes, as I said, aspects like blueprints, works implemented, energy consumption, and other information on the building, static and dynamic. The logbook can be an extremely useful tool for homeowners and occupants themselves, as well as for hiring contractors who will require technical information about the building in order to suggest and implement improvements. So though it's something that is owned by the owner, the building owner could provide access to people and organizations that can help him with the works. The combination of the building renovation roadmap and the logbook is our concept, the concept that iBRoad brings forward for the building renovation passport. And the building renovation passport is not something that began with the iBRoad project. It was discussed in various contexts, and it has been included sometime after the start of the iBRoad project in 2018 in the EPBD directive. Here, both staged deep renovations are mentioned, along with building renovation passports. So this is a specific reference. iBRoad has worked specifically first by reviewing the national context which is relevant to the implementation of energy performance certificates, which could be a starting point, at least for part of a building renovation passport. In 8 countries, analyzing particular examples of building renovation passports related initiatives, specifically from Belgium, France, Germany, and Denmark. I show along the way the reports that include this information. Similarly, coming up with this concept, it went back to building owners through a professional market survey and got their opinion on what we suggested as a concept for the building renovation passport, and this specifically in the countries that were to be used for the pilot testing of these concepts, so Bulgaria, Poland, and Portugal. Afterwards, following the above work, the specific data elements to be included in a typical building logbook, which is also relevant to the roadmap, these were identified, organized, and prioritized in the project context. They then became the background for envisaging the logbook and roadmap in respect to their basic functions. Then, the architecture of the iBRoad tools was developed into a concrete model, including other tools, including financial tools, for example, techno-economic methodologies, numerical parameters, expressed in functional modules and computer code. And last but not least, before moving to actual pilot implementation, a number of stakeholder meetings took place, in particular in two series, again in 8 countries, to collect the opinions of stakeholders, of the market, of the agencies, of the key players in the implementation of such initiatives, both on the iBRoad preliminary concept and more recently on the tools themselves. An important point to mention here is that the iBRoad concept is modular. We have opted for a modular logic whereby the iBRoad roadmap and the iBRoad logbook can be used in conjunction or independently, depending on the specific context. For example, something similar to the logbook may and does already exist in some countries. Similar, there are now public or commercial roadmap offerings in certain markets. Each market can choose what is useful from what iBRoad has produced. And in this case, we worked further on adapting the software tools and methodologies developed for the 3 pilot countries mentioned before, so Bulgaria, Poland, and Portugal, plus Germany for the logbook alone, since Germany already has a tool which is covers the specifications of our roadmap. Testing entailed, apart from adapting the parameters for national requirements, finding and tracing professional auditors on the iBRoad methodology and tools, arranging their implementation of the methodology, and producing the roadmaps and logbooks for the suitable buildings. This information is gathered in reports, the handbook and the iBRoad training toolkit, and the experience from the field test has been presented in these 2 reports, both the organization and the evaluation. These 2 reports and the content of these reports, the results of our pilot testing will be presented in the next webinar coming up on the 27th of February. Last but not least, and following the pilot tests, the experience gained from this, the iBRoad concept was further elaborated into policy proposals and guidelines supporting implementation of the building renovation passport across the European Union. Today we will be focusing on some of these aspects, in particular the surrounding policy instruments. The relevant report will be made available in a few days. The large majority of the iBRoad outcomes, as I mentioned, are available on the iBRoad website, publicly available, and more information is coming there. The intention is to spark interest in the concept and provide the tools to those interested in applying them further, primarily energy authorities and agencies across Europe. So after this webinar, please visit iBRoadproject.eu Be informed about iBRoad developments. You can do this by subscribing to our news alerts. I stress that your addresses have been gathered specifically for today's webinar, so by GDPR we are not able to just keep mailing you with news alerts. You have to specifically ask them. So I invite you to do this. To hear more about the iBRoad tools field test, please register for our next webinar if you have not already done so. To learn more on the topics that interest you, directly download our reports. The iBRoad final conference will take place in May in Brussels. Further information will follow via our website and news alert. If you're interested in the potential implementation of building renovation roadmaps, passports, and logbooks in your country or area, please get in touch with us via our email address or in the contact form in the website. Similarly, please get in touch with us if you're interested in presenting iBRoad results in some of your own events. So without further ado, and thank you for your attention, I pass the floor to Martin Pent from IFOI for the main presentation of today.